The road was ice, the night was silent, and everyone else kept driving past until she saw them.
Snow slams against the windshield. Wipers drag slow. Ice grips the road hard. Mom, are we going to crash? Malik's voice shakes from the back seat. Zariah leans forward, eyes locked on the road. No. I've got you. Her phone reads 9:42 p.m. Temperature shows 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Cars sit abandoned along the shoulder. Hazard lights blink through the storm. No one stops. Then her headlights catch two figures. An elderly Caucasian couple, standing still, barely moving. Zariah slows down. Her chest tightens. A truck speeds past. The driver shouts, "Keep moving! You stop! You're stuck!" Malik presses his face to the window. "Mom, they look cold." The old woman lifts her hand. Weak. The man beside her sways. Silence fills the car. If this story moves you, tell me where you're watching from, and subscribe. Zariah exhales, taps the brakes, and reaches for the door. But the moment she steps out, something feels wrong. Cold air hits Zariah hard the second she steps out. The wind cuts through her jacket. Snow crunches under her boots. "Ma'am, please," the old woman says, voice shaking. "We can't feel our hands." Zariah moves closer. "You shouldn't be out here. Where's your car?" The old man points down the road. Stalled. Been over 30 minutes. Zariah glances back at her car. Malik watches through the window, eyes wide. A sedan slows behind her, then drives off. No one stops. "Do you have family nearby?" Zariah asks. The woman hesitates. We tried calling." "Who?" Silence. The man looks away. Zariah notices their shoes soaked, their hands pale. "Get in my car," she says. The man steps back. "We don't want to trouble you." Malik opens the door slightly. "Mom, hurry." Zariah reaches out her hand, but the way the couple looks at each other makes her pause. Zariah keeps her hand out. Snow gathers on her sleeve. The old woman stares at it, unsure. "Please," Zariah says. "You can't stay out here." The man grips the woman's arm. "We shouldn't. We don't know her." Zariah nods once. "That's fair. But you're freezing." Malik's voice comes from the car. "Mom, they look sick." The woman's knees buckle slightly. Zariah steps forward fast and catches her. "I'm okay," the woman whispers, but her voice fades. Zariah looks at the man. "You wait longer, she won't be." A car passes again, splashing slush near their feet. Still no one stops. "Just to warm up," Zariah adds. "Nothing else." The man studies her face. Snow sticks to his eyebrows. "How far are you going?" he asks. "Home. 10 minutes." He hesitates, then nods once. "All right," he says quietly. Zariah helps them toward the car, but as they move, she notices something strange in his coat pocket. Zariah opens the back door. Warm air spills out. Malik shifts aside, clutching his hoodie. "Sit here," Zariah says, "close to the heater." The woman lowers herself slowly. Her hands tremble. The man follows, careful, quiet. Malik pulls off his spare blanket. "You can use this." "Thank you," the woman whispers. Her voice cracks. Zariah shuts the door and circles back to the driver's seat. Her fingers feel numb. She starts the engine. Heat pushes out. Weak at first. "Names?" Zariah asks. "Eleanor," the woman says. "This is Thomas." "I'm Zariah. That's my son, Malik." Thomas nods once. "You didn't have to stop." Zariah keeps her eyes on the road. "I know." She checks the mirror. Eleanor leans back, eyes closed. "You said you called someone," Zariah adds. "Who were you trying to reach?" Thomas stiffens. His jaw tightens. "We had a number," he says. Zariah waits, but he doesn't finish the sentence. The car moves slowly through the ice. Tires slip, then catch. Zariah keeps both hands steady on the wheel. "Stay awake," she says, glancing back. Eleanor nods faintly. Malik watches her closely. "You can hold this," he says, placing a warm pack in her hands. "Thank you," she whispers again. Zariah checks the mirror. Thomas sits stiff, one hand inside his coat pocket. He hasn't taken it out. "You sure you're okay?" Zariah asks, "I'm fine," Thomas replies, too quickly. A police siren sounds faint in the distance, then fades. The roads stay empty. Zariah's house is 8 minutes away. Her gas reads low. "Where were you heading?" she asks. Thomas looks forward. "Somewhere safe." Zariah frowns. "You don't have an address?" Eleanor opens her eyes slowly. "We did, but things changed." Zariah tightens her grip on the wheel, because something about that answer doesn't sit right at all. "Clock out now, Zariah. You're past 12 hours, her supervisor says. Zariah wipes her hands and checks the time. 7:10 a.m. Her shift started at 7 p.m. "I'll go," she replies, voice tired but steady. She grabs her bag and steps outside. Cold air hits again, but not like the storm. This is normal, manageable. Her phone buzzes. A message from Malik's school. Lunch payment, overdue. Zariah exhales slowly. She gets into her car. Gas reads just above empty. Again. "I'll fix it today," she mutters. At a red light, she counts in her head. Rent due in 4 days. The power bill is already late. Groceries running low. Her eyes close for 1 second too long. A horn blasts behind her. "Move!" Someone shouts. She presses the gas and keeps going, because slowing down, even for a moment, is something her life doesn't allow anymore. "Mom, you forgot your coffee," Malik says, running after her. Zariah turns at the door. "Keep it. You need the warmth more." "It's yours," he insists, holding it out with both hands. She smiles faintly and takes it. "All right. Thank you." The apartment is small. 1 bedroom, 1 couch that folds out at night. Shoes lined by the door. No extras. Zariah checks the clock. 6:18 a.m. School starts at 7:10. "Hurry, Malik. The bus won't wait." He nods and grabs his bag. The zipper sticks halfway. He pulls harder. Zariah watches, then kneels and fixes it in seconds. "Gentle," she says. He looks up. "Like you always say." She nods once. Outside, the air bites. Cars pass fast. No one slows. Malik waves before boarding the bus. Zariah stands there a second longer than needed. Then she turns back inside, because the quiet in that apartment always feels heavier after he leaves. "Ma'am, your card declined," the cashier says, voice flat. Zariah pauses. She looks at the screen. Total reads $42.18. "That's not right," she says quietly. The cashier shrugs. "You can try again." Zariah swipes once more. Same result. A man behind her sighs loudly. "Come on." Zariah nods, then starts removing items. Bread first, then eggs, then the milk. "Keep the milk," the cashier says. "You look like you need it." Zariah shakes her head. "No, it's fine." She pays for what's left. $18.60. Outside, she sits in her car for a moment, hands on the wheel. Her phone lights up. Rent reminder. Due in 4 days. She closes her eyes, counts to 5, then open them again, because breaking down is not something she allows herself, but deep down, she knows one wrong move could change everything. "Can you take another shift tonight?" Her supervisor asks. Zariah doesn't answer right away. She checks the clock. 2:05 p.m. She hasn't slept yet. "I worked last night," she says. "I know," he replies. "But 2 people called out." She looks at her phone. Malik's school ends at 3:10. No one else can pick him up. "I can come after I get him," she says. "That's fine. We need you." She nods once. "I'll be there." The call ends. Zariah leans back in her seat. Her eyes burn. Her head feels heavy. A car honks nearby. She doesn't react. Her phone buzzes again. A message from Malik. "Can you come early today?" She stares at it. "I'm trying," she whispers. She starts the engine, because no matter how tired she feels, stopping is not an option she has. "Mom, are we okay?" Malik asks that night, sitting on the edge of the couch. Zariah looks up from the small stack of bills. "Why would you ask that?" He shrugs. "You've been quiet." She folds the papers and sets them aside. "We're fine. I promise." Malik studies her face. "You always say that." Zariah forces a small smile. Because it's true. The lights flicker once, then hold steady. She glances up for a second. Malik leans closer. I can help more. I can stop asking for things. Zariah's expression shifts. No. You're a kid. That's not your job. He nods slowly. She pulls him into a hug. My job is to take care of you. Always. He rests his head on her shoulder. Zariah stares ahead, eyes open. Because even as she says those words, she knows something in their life is close to breaking. Ma'am? Please don't leave us, Eleanor says, her voice thin in the wind. Zariah steps closer. The cold cuts through her jacket fast. Snow sticks to her hair and lashes. I'm not leaving, Zariah replies. Just talk to me. Thomas stands beside Eleanor, shoulders stiff. His breath shows in short bursts. We've been out here too long, he says. His southern accent is soft, but tight. Zariah scans them quickly. No gloves. Thin shoes. Coat's too light for this weather. You're freezing, she says. You need to get inside now. Eleanor nods faintly. We tried walking, but it got worse. Zariah looks down the road. Empty. Silent. No help coming. Where's your car? She asks again. Thomas points into the dark. Back there somewhere. Zariah frowns. Somewhere. He avoids her eyes. A gust of wind hits hard. Eleanor stumbles. Zariah reaches out to steady her, but the way Thomas watches her hand makes her hesitate. Easy, Zariah says, holding Eleanor steady. Lean on me. Eleanor's weight drops more than expected. I'm sorry, she whispers. You don't need to apologize, Zariah replies. Thomas steps closer, eyes fixed on Zariah's grip. We can manage. Zariah shakes her head. No, you can't. Not out here. Malik cracks the car door open. Mom, it's too cold. I know, Zariah calls back. Close the door. The wind pushes harder. Snow builds on their shoulders. Zariah looks at Thomas. You said you called someone. Who? Thomas hesitates. Contact. What contact? Eleanor looks down. We thought, he would answer. Zariah narrows her eyes. He? Thomas's jaw tightens. It doesn't matter. Zariah studies them both. Their clothes are worn, but not cheap. You're not telling me everything, she says. Thomas meets her eyes this time. You're right, he says quietly. And that answer only makes her more cautious. Zariah pulls her coat tighter. Then start talking. Thomas shakes his head. Not out here. Then get in the car, she says. Warm up first. Eleanor sways again. Her lips have turned pale. Malik taps the window. Mom, please. Zariah steps closer. You don't have time to hold back. Thomas looks down the road, then back at Zariah. We don't want trouble. You think I'm trouble? She asks. No, Eleanor says quickly. We just don't know who to trust. Zariah exhales slowly. You trusted someone enough to call them. Silence. Eleanor's fingers shake harder. Snow gathers along her sleeves. Zariah reaches out again. At least take my arm. This time, Eleanor accepts. Thomas watches closely as Zariah steadies her. Just the car, Zariah says. Nothing else. Thomas nods once, but as they move, Zariah notices him glance over his shoulder, like he's expecting someone. Zariah guides Eleanor step by step. Snow drifts around their ankles. The wind howls louder. Almost there, Zariah says. Just a few steps. Eleanor nods weakly. Thank you. We didn't think anyone would stop. Malik opens the door wider. Come on. It's warm. Thomas pauses before entering. His eyes scan the road again. Are you expecting someone? Zariah asks. No, he says quickly. Just making sure. Making sure of what? He doesn't answer. Eleanor settles into the seat. Her hands hover near the heater vents. Zariah looks at Thomas. Are you coming or staying out here? He steps in slowly and shuts the door. Warm air fills the space. For a moment, no one speaks. Zariah watches them through the mirror. You said you walked, she says. From where exactly? Thomas looks at Eleanor first. She closes her eyes. Then he answers, low, from somewhere we shouldn't have left. Zariah starts the engine. The heater hums louder. Warm air begins to fill the car. Stay close to the vents, she says. Don't fall asleep. Eleanor nods, eyes half open. Malik watches her. Quiet now. Zariah checks the mirror. Thomas still has one hand in his coat pocket. He hasn't moved it once. You said you left somewhere you shouldn't have, Zariah says. What does that mean? Thomas stares ahead. It means we made a mistake. What kind of mistake? He exhales slowly. Trusting the wrong person. Zariah tightens her grip on the wheel. Someone here? No, Eleanor whispers. Someone we knew. Zariah glances back. Family? Silence. The car moves forward, tires sliding slightly before catching again. Look, Zariah says. If I'm helping you, I need to know what I'm walking into. Thomas nods faintly. You will, he says, then adds, but not yet. The heater hums, but the cold still lingers. The windows fog up fast. Zariah wipes a clear space with her sleeve. Keep your hands near the vent, she says. Eleanor leans forward, palms open, shaking. I can't feel my fingers. You will, Zariah replies. Just give it time. Malik shifts beside her. Here, he says, handing over his blanket again. Wrap this. Eleanor looks at him, surprised. You're kind. He shrugs. My mom says help people. Zariah glances at him, then back at the road. Thomas watches the exchange, quiet. His shoulders ease slightly. You didn't have to stop, he says again. I know, Zariah replies. The car slides briefly. She corrects it fast. Road's getting worse, she mutters. Malik looks at her. Are we going home? Zariah doesn't answer right away, because for the first time, she's not sure what the right next move is. Mom, we should take them home, Malik says, voice low but firm. Zariah keeps her eyes on the road. We don't know them. They need help, he replies. Eleanor pulls the blanket tighter. We won't stay long, just until we warm up. Thomas nods once. We'll leave as soon as we can. Zariah glances at the gas meter. Almost empty. Her jaw tightens. My place isn't big, she says, and I have work later. We understand, Eleanor says quickly. Anything is enough. The car hits a patch of ice. It slides sideways. Malik grips the seat. Mom, I've got it, Zariah says, correcting the wheel. Silence fills the car again. Thomas finally pulls his hand out of his coat. It's red from the cold. Empty. Zariah notices. Her shoulders ease slightly. Just until you warm up, she says at last. But even as she says it, doubt still sits heavy in her chest. The car slows near a quiet intersection. Streetlights flicker through the snow. Zariah signals, then turns toward her neighborhood. You live close? Thomas asks. About 7 minutes, Zariah replies. Eleanor shifts under the blanket. That's more than enough. Malik leans forward. We have soup at home. Zariah glances at him. We'll see. The heater finally pushes steady warmth. The car feels different now, less tense. Thomas looks at Malik. You're a good kid. Malik shrugs. My mom's the one who stopped. Zariah keeps her eyes forward. You said you called someone, she says again. They didn't answer? Thomas shakes his head slowly. Not tonight. Do they know where you are? A pause. No, he says. Zariah frowns slightly. Because the more they speak, the less their story sounds simple. The car turns into a narrow street. Small houses line both sides. Porch lights glow dim through the snow. That's ours, Zariah says, pointing ahead. A modest one-story home comes into view. Paint slightly worn, one light on inside. Eleanor leans forward. It's beautiful. Zariah gives a small nod. It's enough. The car rolls to a stop. Engine idles. Zariah doesn't move right away. Her hands stay on the wheel. Are you sure about this? Thomas asks quietly. Zariah looks at him through the mirror. I already stopped. No point turning back now. Malik unbuckles. I'll open the door. Wait. Zariah says. He pauses. Zariah turns fully in her seat. She studies Thomas and Eleanor one more time. You come in. You follow my rules, she says. Thomas nods. Of course. Eleanor adds, we're grateful. Zariah reaches for the door handle, but something in her instincts still tells her to stay alert. Zariah steps out first. Snow crunches under her boots. She scans the street. Quiet. No movement. Come on, she says, opening the back door. Malik hops out and runs to the porch. I'll get the light. Careful, Zariah calls. Thomas steps out slowly, helping Eleanor. His grip is firm now, more controlled. Watch your step, Zariah says. They move toward the house. The porch light flicks on. Warm yellow glow cuts through the cold. Eleanor pauses at the door. You're letting strangers into your home. Zariah unlocks it. I know. Thomas looks at her. Most people wouldn't. Zariah opens the door. Most people didn't stop. They step inside. Warm air wraps around them. Malik closes the door behind them. For a moment, everything feels calm. But Zariah notices Thomas glance around the house too carefully. Take your shoes off by the door, Zariah says, flipping the light switch. Warm light fills the room. The space is small, clean, quiet. Eleanor looks around slowly. It's peaceful. Zariah nods. It's home. Malik heads straight to the kitchen. I'll get towels. Thomas steps in carefully, eyes moving across the room. Couch, folded blanket, small table, no extras. You live here alone? He asks. Me and my son, Zariah replies. Malik returns, handing Eleanor a towel. For your hands. Thank you, she says, her voice soft. Zariah walks to the stove. Sit down. I'll make something warm. You don't have to, Thomas says. Zariah doesn't turn. I know. She fills a pot with water, sets it on the heat. Steam starts to rise slowly. Behind her, the room stays quiet. But the way Eleanor watches her feels deeper than simple gratitude. Zariah opens the cabinet. 2 cans left. She picks one, sets it on the counter. Soup okay? She asks. Eleanor nods. More than okay. Thomas sits at the table, hands wrapped in the towel. He watches Zariah measure water. Malik pulls out 3 bowls, then adds a 4th, without asking. Zariah notices, but says nothing. You don't keep much, Thomas says, voice low. Zariah glances at him. I keep what we need. The can opens with a soft pop. She pours it in. Steam rises faster now. The room fills with warmth. Eleanor leans forward slightly. It smells good. It's simple, Zariah replies. Malik smiles. It's always good. Zariah stirs slowly. The spoon taps the pot. Thomas looks at Malik, then back at Zariah. You do all this on your own? He asks. Zariah nods once, and for the first time, Thomas looks like he doesn't know what to say. Zariah sets the bowls on the table. Steam curls upward. The room feels warmer now. Careful. It's hot, she says. Malik slides a bowl toward Eleanor. Blow on it first. Eleanor smiles faintly. I will. Thomas lifts his spoon slowly. His hands still shake. They eat in silence for a moment. Only the sound of spoons against ceramic. Zariah watches them without staring. You haven't eaten today, she says. Eleanor nods. Not since morning. Malik pauses. That's a long time. Thomas swallows. Things got complicated. Zariah sits across from them. Complicated how? He doesn't answer. Eleanor lowers her gaze. We didn't plan for today. Zariah leans back slightly. If you've ever helped someone even when you had little, like this video and share your story in the comments. The words sit in the air. Then silence returns, heavier than before. Zariah stands at the sink, rinsing a spoon. Water runs low. She turns it off fast. Eat as much as you need, she says. There's a little more. Eleanor looks at the pot. You sure? Zariah nods. We'll manage. Thomas sets his spoon down. You shouldn't have to stretch for us. Zariah dries her hands. I decide what I can stretch. Malik watches her, then eats quietly. A heater clicks on in the corner. The room hums softly. Eleanor studies the walls. A school photo. A small calendar. A bill tucked under a magnet. You carry a lot, she says. Zariah shrugs. Everyone does. Thomas looks at the bill, then away. Some carry more than they should. Zariah meets his eyes. Then they keep moving. Eleanor's eyes fill slightly. She blinks it back. Because something about this home feels both safe and heavy at the same time. Zariah sets 2 extra blankets on the couch. You can rest here tonight. Eleanor grips her hand. We don't want to take your space. You're not, Zariah says. We'll make it work. Malik gathers pillows. I can sleep on the floor. No, Zariah replies. You take the bed. Thomas stands slowly. We'll leave early. Before we cause more trouble. You're not in trouble, Zariah says. He studies her. You keep saying that. Zariah.
She didn't have much, but she still chose to give.
Zariah folds the blanket once more, because it's true. Eleanor sits, hands still wrapped. We didn't expect kindness tonight. Zariah nods. Neither did I. Silence settles again. Thomas reaches into his coat, then stops. He looks at Eleanor first. She gives a slight shake of her head. Zariah notices the exchange, because whatever they are holding back is starting to press closer to the surface. You said you called someone, Zariah says, leaning against the wall. Your son? Eleanor's hand tightens around the cup. Yes. Thomas looks down. We thought he would pick up. Zariah steps closer. He didn't? Eleanor shakes her head slowly. Not this time. Malik sits quietly, listening. Zariah studies their faces. Does he live nearby? Thomas nods once. Atlanta. That's not far, Zariah says. Why didn't he come? Silence. Eleanor's fingers grip the cup harder. Her knuckles turn pale. We didn't want to trouble him, she says. Zariah frowns. You're out in the cold at night. That's already trouble. Thomas exhales. He's busy. Zariah tilts her head. Too busy to answer? No reply. The heater hums in the background. Zariah crosses her arms. Because the more they speak about their son, the less their answers make sense. Zariah pulls out a chair and sits. What does he do in Atlanta? Thomas rubs his hands together. Business. What kind? A big one, Eleanor says quickly, then looks down. Zariah leans forward. That doesn't tell me much. Thomas's jaw tightens. He runs companies. Investments. Malik looks up. Like a boss? Thomas nods. Yes, like a boss. Zariah studies their clothes again. Worn, but once expensive. Shoes scuffed, not cheap. You didn't always live like this, she says. Eleanor's eyes flicker. No. What changed? A long pause. Thomas lifts the cup, then sets it down without drinking. His grip is tight. Circumstances, he says. Zariah shakes her head slightly. That's not an answer. Eleanor glances at him, then back at Zariah. It is for now, she says softly. Zariah leans back. Because every answer they give only raises more questions. Zariah watches them closely. You had a number. You called. He didn't answer. Then what? Thomas looks at the floor. We waited. How long? Long enough, he says. Eleanor shifts in her seat. We thought he would call back. Zariah leans forward. Did he? Silence. Malik glances between them. Maybe his phone died. Eleanor forces a small smile. Maybe. Zariah doesn't smile. Or maybe he saw your call. Thomas's shoulders stiffen. You said you left somewhere you shouldn't have. Zariah continues. Where was that? Eleanor's eyes fill slightly. A place we thought was ours. Zariah narrows her eyes. Thought it was. Thomas looks up this time. It doesn't belong to us anymore. Zariah sits back slowly. Because now it's clear they didn't just get lost in the snow. They lost something much bigger. Zariah leans forward again. What do you mean it's not yours anymore? Thomas presses his lips together. We had a home. A large one. Eleanor nods slowly. Too large for just us. Zariah studies them. And now? Thomas glances at Eleanor before answering. Now we don't. Malik frowns. Did someone take it? Eleanor looks at him gently. In a way. Zariah crosses her arms. Who? Silence fills the room. The heater clicks off. The air feels still. Thomas finally speaks. It was signed over. Signed? Zariah repeats. You gave it away? Eleanor's grip tightens on the cup. We trusted someone. Zariah's eyes narrow. Your son? Eleanor doesn't answer. Thomas looks away. Zariah exhales slowly. Because now the pieces are starting to connect, but they still refuse to say it clearly. Zariah stands up slowly. I'm going to ask this once. Thomas looks up. Eleanor holds her breath. Did your son put you out of your own home? Zariah asks. Silence. Malik stops moving. He watches them closely. Eleanor's eyes fill. She looks at Thomas. Thomas nods once. Slow. Yes, he says. Zariah exhales, long and heavy. Why? Eleanor wipes her face. He said it made more sense. For who? Zariah asks. For his future. Thomas replies. Zariah shakes her head. That doesn't answer anything. Eleanor whispers. We thought we were part of that future. The room goes quiet again. Zariah looks at Malik, then back at them. Because helping strangers is one thing, but helping people pushed out by their own son is something else entirely. Say his name, Zariah says, voice steady. Thomas looks at Eleanor. She nods, slowly. Victor, he says. Victor Sokolov. Zariah pauses. That's your son? Yes. Eleanor answers. Malik looks confused. That sounds important. Thomas gives a dry smile. It is. Zariah leans back. What does he do? Eleanor exhales. He built companies, real estate, tech. Money came fast. Thomas adds, he moved us to Atlanta. Big house, staff, everything. Zariah watches them closely. So what changed? Eleanor's hands begin to shake again. He changed, she says. Thomas nods. The more he gained, the less we recognized him. Zariah narrows her eyes. People don't just change like that. Thomas looks straight at her. He did, he says. And the way he says it makes it clear this story is far from simple. He started small, Eleanor says. Always driven. Always focused. Thomas nods. We supported him. Every step. Zariah listens, arms crossed. So where did it go wrong? Eleanor looks down. When success comes fast. Thomas adds, new people, new circle, new rules. Malik frowns. What kind of rules? Thomas hesitates. The kind that didn't include us. Zariah leans forward. He pushed you out? Eleanor nods slowly. At first it was small. Fewer calls, short visits. Then, Zariah asks. Thomas exhales. Then we became inconvenient. Zariah's expression tightens. To his own parents? Eleanor's voice drops. That's what it felt like. The room goes quiet. Zariah studies their faces. No anger. Just pain. People don't forget family that easily, she says. Thomas looks at her, eyes steady. He didn't forget, he says. He chose. Zariah leans forward. Chosen what? Thomas looks down at his hands. Chosen his image. Eleanor adds, we didn't fit it anymore. Malik frowns. Why not? Eleanor forces a small smile. We're not polished. Zariah shakes her head. That's not a reason to cut people off. Thomas exhales slowly. To him, it was. Zariah studies them. So he just stopped helping you? Eleanor nods. Gradually. Then completely. And the house? Zariah asks. Thomas's jaw tightens. Signed over. Said it was for business. Zariah's voice sharpens. Did you agree to that? Eleanor's eyes fill again. We trusted him. Zariah leans back. Trust doesn't work like that, she says. Thomas looks at her. Tired. We know that now, he replies. And the weight of that truth settles deep into the room. Zariah sits still. So after the house was signed over, where did you go? Eleanor wipes her eyes. He moved us out. Said it was temporary. Thomas lets out a slow breath. Temporary turned into nothing. Malik leans forward. He didn't give you another place? Thomas shakes his head. Just promises. Zariah's voice drops. And you believed him? Eleanor nods. He's our son. Silence follows. Zariah presses her lips together. So how did you end up out there tonight? Thomas looks at Eleanor. She nods, faintly. We went back, he says. Back where? Zariah asks. To see him. In Atlanta. And? Thomas's eyes harden slightly. We didn't get past the gate. Malik's face shifts. He didn't let you in? Eleanor shakes her head slowly. Zariah exhales. Because now the truth is no longer unclear. It's harsh and direct. Zariah leans forward. You went all the way to his place, and he still didn't see you? Thomas nods once. Security told us to leave. Eleanor's voice trembles. We said we were his parents. And? Zariah asks. They said they had no record of us. Thomas replies. Malik's eyes widened. That's not right. No, Zariah says quietly. It's not. Eleanor looks down at her hands. We waited outside for hours. Thomas adds. We thought he might come out. Zariah's voice tightens. Did he? Silence. Eleanor shakes her head. The heater hums again, but the room feels colder now. Zariah looks at them, then at Malik. Because what started as helping strangers has turned into something much heavier. And now, she has to decide how far she's willing to go. Zariah stands near the window. Snow falls softer now. The street is quiet. You can stay tonight, she says without turning. Eleanor looks up. We don't want to be a burden. You're not, Zariah replies. Thomas studies her. That's more than we expected. Zariah turns back toward them. One night isn't enough. Malik looks between them. They can stay longer, right? Zariah meets his eyes. She pauses. I have to think, she says. Thomas nods. That's fair. Zariah walks closer. She looks at Eleanor's hands, still shaking slightly. You can't go back out there tomorrow, she says. Eleanor's voice softens. We don't have anywhere else. Zariah exhales slowly. What would you do in her place? Comment your decision below. She looks at Malik again, because the choice she makes now will affect more than just one night. Zariah sits across from them. If you stay, we set a plan. Thomas nods. We'll follow whatever you decide. Eleanor leans forward. We don't want to take from you. Zariah shakes her head. Then help where you can. Small things. Malik smiles. You can help me with homework. Eleanor's face softens. I'd like that. Zariah studies Thomas. And you? I can fix things, he says. Whatever needs work. Zariah nods once. Good. She pulls out her phone, battery at 9%. She opens maps. Atlanta pins glow on the screen. Thomas watches. You're thinking about going there. Zariah looks up. I'm thinking about options. Eleanor's voice tightens. Please, don't cause trouble. Zariah sets the phone down. I'm not looking for trouble, she says. She glances at Malik, then back at them. But I don't ignore things that don't sit right. Zariah folds her arms. If I go to Atlanta, it's to talk, not fight. Thomas shakes his head. He won't listen. You don't know that, Zariah replies. Eleanor's voice is soft. We've tried. Malik looks at Zariah. Mom, are we really going? Zariah meets his eyes. Not tonight. She turns back to Thomas. What would it take to reach him? Thomas exhales. More than a knock at the gate. Zariah nods slowly. Then we find another way. Eleanor grips her cup. Why are you doing this? Zariah pauses. She looks at Malik, then back at them. Because someone should, she says. Thomas studies her face. You barely know us. Zariah shrugs. I know enough. Silence settles again. Because this is no longer about one night of help. This is starting to become something much bigger. Zariah steps into the hallway. She watches Malik settle under his blanket. Are they staying? He asks, voice low. For now, Zariah says. He nods. They look tired. They are, she replies. Malik studies her face. You're thinking about their son. Zariah doesn't answer right away. He left them, Malik says. Zariah kneels beside him. Some people make choices they regret later. Will he? Malik asks. Zariah pauses. I don't know. Malik pulls the blanket closer. If I ever do that, you can remind me. Zariah's expression softens. You won't. He nods once. She stands and turns off the light. In the living room, Thomas and Eleanor sit quietly, waiting. Zariah walks back toward them. Steady now. Because the more she sees, the more certain she becomes about what needs to happen next. Zariah sits across from them again. You're not leaving tomorrow. Eleanor exhales, almost in relief. Are you sure? I am, Zariah says. We'll figure things out, step by step. Thomas nods slowly. We won't forget this. Zariah looks at him. I'm not doing it to be remembered. Malik walks in and sits beside her. "We'll make space," he says. Zariah places a hand on his shoulder. "We always do." Eleanor's eyes soften. "You have a strong home." Zariah shakes her head slightly. "We have a strong bond." Thomas looks between them. That matters more. Zariah leans back. Her voice is calm now. "Tomorrow, we start fixing what we can," she says. Thomas nods. Eleanor grips the blanket tighter. Because even without saying it, they all feel it. Tomorrow will not be simple. "Good morning," Malik says, walking into the living room. Eleanor looks up from the couch. "Morning." Her voice is stronger today. Zariah steps in behind him. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Eleanor replies. "Warmer." Thomas stands carefully. "Thank you for last night." Zariah nods. "Let's keep it simple today." She heads to the kitchen. "Breakfast first." Malik follows. "We have eggs." Eleanor smiles faintly. "That sounds perfect." Thomas moves slower now, but steadier. He looks around the room again. Less guarded. Zariah places plates on the table. "Sit. Eat." They gather quietly. The tension from the night before has eased. Malik laughs at something small. Eleanor joins him, soft at first. Zariah watches them, because for the first time since they arrived, the room feels less heavy. But the absence of their son still sits quietly beneath every moment. "Eat slowly," Zariah says, setting the plates down. Eleanor nods. "I will." Thomas takes a bite, then pauses. "It's been a while since we had a meal like this." Zariah glances at him. "A simple one?" He shakes his head. "A calm one." Malik smiles. "We eat like this every day." Eleanor looks at him. "That's something special." Zariah sits down. "It's normal for us." Thomas studies the table. 4 plates. No extras, but enough. "You make it work," he says. Zariah nods. "You learn to." Eleanor looks around again. Her shoulders relax more. Malik laughs at something small. Thomas joins in, low but real. Zariah watches them closely, because the tension is fading, little by little. But she can still see it in their eyes. That quiet space where their son should be. "Can I help with anything?" Thomas asks, standing near the sink. Zariah hands him a small toolbox. The door hinge is loose. "Start there." He nods. "Got it." Malik sits at the table with a book. "Eleanor, can you help me read this?" Eleanor smiles. "Of course." She pulls her chair closer. Zariah watches as Thomas tightens a screw. His hands are steadier now. "It feels good to fix something," he says. Zariah replies, "Feels good to have it fixed." Malik stumbles on a word. Eleanor corrects him gently. "Sound it out." He tries again. "Got it." They share a small smile. Zariah leans against the counter. The room feels active, alive. "Thank you for letting us do something," Thomas says. Zariah nods. "Everyone carries their weight here." Eleanor looks up. "We can do more." Zariah meets her eyes. "We'll take it one step at a time." But even in this calm, a bigger step waits ahead. "Did you sleep well?" Zariah asks, folding a blanket. Eleanor nods. "Better than I expected." Thomas sets the toolbox down. "Your place feels safe." Zariah pauses. "It has to." Malik looks up. "We don't lock every door here." Zariah gives him a look. "We still stay careful." Thomas nods. "That's wise." Eleanor's smile fades slightly. "We forgot what careful looks like." Zariah studies her. "You trusted him." Eleanor nods. "We did." Silence follows. Malik shifts in his seat. "People don't always do the right thing." Zariah looks at him. "No, they don't." Thomas looks toward the window. Snow melts slowly outside. "Still," he says, "you gave us a place." Zariah shrugs. "It was the right thing." Eleanor's eyes soften, because even after everything, they're learning what kindness feels like again. "Can we step outside for a minute?" Thomas asks, looking at Zariah. Zariah nods. "All right." Not long. They step onto the porch. The snow has slowed. Cold air lingers, but softer now. Thomas exhales. "We haven't had a moment alone." Eleanor looks at him. "You're thinking about him again." "I never stopped," Thomas says. Zariah stands by the door, arms folded. "You don't have to go back." Eleanor shakes her head. We're not going back. Not like before. Thomas looks at Zariah, but we can't ignore it either. Zariah nods slowly. Then we face it the right way. Eleanor studies her. You mean talk to him? Zariah holds her gaze. Yes. Silence sits between them. Thomas nods once. Then we need to prepare, he says. Zariah looks toward the street, calm but focused. Because the next step won't be about survival. It will be about confrontation. Morning light fills the room. The storm is gone. The streets look clear again. Zariah stands by the window, coffee in hand. She watches the quiet street. You're up early, Eleanor says, walking in slowly. Zariah nods. Habit. Thomas follows behind her. It's peaceful here. Zariah glances at them. It stays that way if you protect it. Malik walks in, rubbing his eyes. Smells like breakfast. Zariah smiles slightly. It is. They gather at the table again. Same 4 plates. Same small space. But something feels different. Lighter. Thomas looks around. You built this with less than what we had. Zariah shrugs. It's not about what you have. Eleanor nods slowly. It's about what you keep. Zariah meets her eyes. Exactly. And in that moment, the difference between wealth and character becomes clear without needing more words. Zariah sets the plates down. Eat before it gets cold. Malik sits first. This is my favorite part. Eleanor smiles. Mine too. Thomas takes a seat. He looks at Zariah. You gave us more than a place. Zariah shakes her head. I gave you time. Eleanor nods slowly. Time to think. Time to feel again. Malik looks between them. And time to fix things. Thomas exhales. If they can be fixed. Zariah meets his eyes. Some things can. Some things just need to be faced. Eleanor's hands rest on the table. Calm now. Steady. We're ready for that, she says. Zariah nods once. Outside, sunlight spreads across the street. No snow left. Inside, the room holds quiet strength. Because what started as a single night of help has turned into something that changed all of them. Are you still going to Atlanta? Malik asks, looking at Zariah. Zariah pauses. Not to fight, just to speak. Thomas nods. That's all we ever wanted. Eleanor adds, to be heard. Zariah leans back. Then that's what we aim for. Malik frowns. What if he still says no? Silence follows. Thomas answers first. Then we accept who he is. Eleanor looks down, even if it hurts. Zariah studies them. And you're okay with that? Thomas exhales slowly. We don't have to be okay. We just have to be honest. Zariah nods. Malik looks at her. Would you ever do that? Zariah meets his eyes. No, she says. I don't leave people behind. The words sit firm in the room, because in that moment, her values become clearer than anything money could build. Zariah stands by the sink, rinsing plates. Water runs steady. You've done more than enough, Eleanor says softly. Zariah shakes her head. I did what I could. Thomas steps closer. Not everyone would. Zariah turns off the tap. That's not my concern. Malik dries a plate beside her. We help. That's what we do. Eleanor watches him. You taught him well. Zariah glances at Malik. He teaches me too. Thomas looks around the room again. Same small space. Same simple life. But this is rich, he says. Zariah raises an eyebrow. Doesn't feel that way most days. Thomas nods. Because you're measuring the wrong thing. Zariah pauses. Eleanor smiles faintly. You have something our son lost. Zariah meets her gaze. Because for the first time, she understands what they truly mean. Zariah stands at the door as Thomas and Eleanor prepare to step out. The street is clear now. Quiet. You don't have to rush, she says. Thomas shakes his head. We won't be far. Eleanor reaches for Zariah's hand. You gave us more than shelter. Zariah nods. You gave me perspective. Malik stands beside her. You can come back anytime. Eleanor smiles. We will. Thomas looks at Zariah. Whatever happens next, we'll face it differently. Zariah meets his eyes. That's what matters. They step off the porch together. Morning light settles over everything. Calm, clear, Zariah watches them walk forward, because sometimes change doesn't come from power or wealth. It comes from a moment when someone chooses to care. Drop the lesson you learned from this story and share this with someone who believes kindness still matters.